Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of the most popular books of 2025. So should you pick up this space read, or should this one stay grounded? Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is Spineless Books, your one-stop, spoiler-free shop for all things audiobook. Now, I really love The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That was a solid 5-star read for me. I found myself really swept up in the characters, very captivated by the story, and literally shocked by the twist. Now, if you haven't read that one, obviously you're not going to know what I'm talking about, but maybe you've read Atmosphere. I picked this book up with some excitement, given how much I love 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but I wasn't sure that the subject matter of space was going to appeal to me. Right out of the gate, I was smacked in the face with space, and I was hooked. I got very caught up in the drama at the beginning of the book, and I was really invested pretty much right away. But I have to say I have one tiny criticism of this book, and it has to do with the opening scenes. There's so much drama in the beginning, yet for me, that drama felt really like a bookend, and it wasn't integrated enough into the story, in my opinion. I really liked it. I really liked the sort of middle stuff, but I also felt like the entire middle of the book I was thinking about the drama at the beginning and kind of wondering when we were going to get back to that. And we did, but it was really, really late in the book. So to me, it felt sort of like a space drama with a novel in between. Fortunately for Taylor Jenkins Reid, I also enjoyed the novel in between, which follows Joan, a young woman in the 1980s who is training to be an astronaut. Now, at the time that Joan joins the astronaut corps, she is one of the few women who has ever been accepted even into the training, never mind someone who makes it all the way through to the title of astronaut. And I really appreciated the research that Taylor Jenkins Reid did in order to make this historically accurate, or at least something that seemed like it was historically accurate, given that I haven't done that research. I enjoyed hearing about the drama that Joan and the other women in the class dealt with in this male-dominated industry, but I also enjoyed learning about their astronaut class as a whole. Joan's little posse of astronauts faces some enormous challenges, and I'm not going to spoil exactly what goes on, but there was a lot to digest as far as just what the astronauts went through. But the book, as the title implies, is in fact a love story. Joan has never been in love before, and Jenkins Reid walks you through the entirety of Joan's process of discovery and how it alters her life and what changes for her as she falls in love. As is often the case with Taylor Jenkins Reid, there are LGBTQ characters in the story, and they're not there just for placement to check a box, they are pivotal in the actual story. Interestingly enough, the characters that I found myself most interested in were minor characters. I love the relationship that went on between Joan and her sister Barbara, but more than that, I loved the relationship between Joan and her niece Frances. That relationship to me in this book, I needed more of it. I mean, there's plenty of it, but I wanted more because I really love their interactions and their dynamic, and they just were a fabulous pair. One of the things I think Taylor Jenkins Reid is particularly gifted at is her character development. Often you'll find that you're learning about characters and you don't really know that you feel one way or another, and then something will happen and they sneak up on you and you suddenly realize not only do you care, but you are deeply invested. And that happened to me both with 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and with Atmosphere. I would have told you I didn't really like anybody in Atmosphere, and then all of a sudden I was really worried and concerned and invested in what happened to them. So I think she definitely pulls off some masterful character development, because to like a character that you don't even realize you're liking, she good. It's very obvious Taylor Jenkins Reid did a lot of research about space travel, but don't be fooled into thinking this is a book about space. In fact, if you do, I think you're going to be really disappointed, because as the title literally says, this is a love story. And I fell for it. I thought it was a book about space. And yes, that is the context, but it's not about space. It's about a love story. There is much social commentary in this book, and it makes sense given that it's a historical fiction about a time when representation and social norms were changing. Now, it's very early in this book, so there's a lot of progress that needs to happen when this story hits the ground, but I really enjoyed seeing how this realistically played out for people, or realistically played out for fictional characters who feel like real people. The primary narration is executed by Julia Whelan, who is really kind of masterful as a narrator. I mean, she's so award-winning and recognized. Now, personally, I've often said I don't really like her voice, but I think I'm kind of starting to get over that. She's just so good that it's really hard to feel like she's doing anything wrong as a narrator, and I know why, or I'm not able to really put into words, but I know that, yes, I had this reaction that I don't really like her narration, but I think at this point I just need to stop saying it, because she's everywhere and she's not going away, and if I'm going to listen to books, I'm going to listen to Julia Whelan. So she tends to do a lot of the big ones, and it's worth sticking by her. She's not actually the only narrator in this story. Kristen DiMercurio is also a narrator who covers a second perspective in the story. Now, it wasn't entirely necessary, and it's a very small part of the book, but at the same time, I did appreciate being able to differentiate between two of the lead characters. So that was really helpful, but not entirely required. I gave this book 4 stars. I think the thing it lacked for me was cohesiveness between the drama in the beginning, the drama in the end, and the middle. Yes, they're related and they're all part of the same story, but I got so interested in the beginning drama that I spent a lot of the middle wondering when we were going to get back to that drama. So I think I would have liked this book or rated it a 5 if that drama had been revisited more often in the middle of the story, or if there had just been a slightly more condensed middle of the story. I felt like it went on a really long time with me wondering, but what's going to happen? And I did get my payoff in the end, and I did learn what happened, but I really got distracted by that part of the story because it was so exciting to me. I think this one's worth checking out. I didn't even realize it was a historical fiction at first, but it really is. It dives deeply into some of the things that changed in the United States in the 1980s, and particularly for women's rights and LGBTQ rights. So if that's not something you know a lot about, you might find that part really interesting. But even if you don't find that part really interesting, it's a really good story. But remember, you might love what I hate and hate what I love. So make your own opinion, but thanks for listening to mine. See you next time.